Hey there, welcome. And before I get started, I want to remind everybody of kind of the parameters of this channel a little. So it's perfectly great to mean what you say what you mean, and mean what you say. Post it here. I want to have your opinion. What I really want to discourage is anything that is not a civil discourse. So in other words, it's fine to say, in my opinion, this is what happened. And it's totally fine for another person to say, oh, I see it this way. It's not okay to call each other names. If you call someone a name, you'll be banned, and there's just there's no discussion of it. If you feel that you have been unfairly banned, you can contact my support desk, which is support@torihartman.com, which is on the channel here. Okay, so with that in mind, what I wanted to start with today is the idea of why we attack people, why we, and the idea of how debilitating it can be, and reminding everybody of that. And I know that most of you who listen past the first minute, because people with an agenda are just going to go, oh, she's this, or what have you. But people that, like yourself, if you're listening right now, you're looking for more than just the moment, is what I'm saying. And okay, so let me share with you what's going on. I think it's really important for people like myself to say what's really happening, when we're suffering from burnout or we're suffering from some kind of issue that's going on. And one of the things that really does kind of perturb me a little is, and most of you know this already, I have done a tremendous amount of work so far in this channel. And in some ways it's like, I'm still finding my way with it. I'm still finding the voice of what it's going to be. And that's why I asked many of you in the community chat to say, hey, what do you see this as? Because I want to make sure I'm giving you the information that you're here for. And really, I yawn, so really be bringing to you the best possible content. And I wanted to talk about the Chris Watts case, and I want to talk about what we've learned from it, particularly what I've learned from it, and share with all of you and get your thoughts on what you've learned from it so far. One of the biggest things I think that I have really taken away is the ability to honestly feel my feelings again and share with you what I really feel. And when I feel sad, I'm feeling sad. When I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling happy. And so when I talk about one of the things that perturbs me is that I would say a good 25% to 30% of my what do you call them, my uploads now, my videos, are being demonetized because I'm saying, I'm talking about, difficult things. And here's the thing. I'm not going to stop doing that. It's whether they monetize it on YouTube or not. I mean, yes, it's great to make a couple $100 a month, but by all means, you understand this isn't a living, really. I mean, I'm kind of doing this as, wow, I'm really enjoying you guys and all that. So as I talk to you with this rambling, I also want to get back to the point that I'm making, which is that today was one of those days. And I think when I say this, it's one of those days where I just feel like I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this channel. I don't want to do life. I don't want to do anything. And I think that what that brings forward to me is that some days are just difficult. And there's some days that we don't want to go on. And there's some days that we just need to curl up on the couch. And I want to say to you that as a creator, and as this channel is, I feel an obligation to you to tell you my truth, because I feel that that's what this Watt case has been for us, if you will. And for me, watching the Rougecs go through with dignity what they've been going through. And I think today, I woke up this morning and think, because so many people will post, it's over, he did it. But you know what? It'll never be over for Shanann's mom, for her brother, for her father. It'll never be over. Now, I'm going to say that life shifts, and like water seeking its own level, things will seek their own level. And yet I don't ever think that it will be over for people. I think the difference is, for me, is the reason true crime is something that I feel is important to talk about is it's important to talk about the things that were never talked about and some of the real issues that come up underneath the crimes. Because I think all of us who follow it and follow cases are following them because we know there's something more that we haven't seen. It's almost like there's something that hasn't been revealed to us. And for me, that's that unknown factor. That's that part of a crime where it's not just reporting. It's not just this guy did this to his family and this is it. And so many people have been writing me and saying, well, you know, why is the Watt case? There's this other guy who did the same thing. Why is this case? You know, why are you covering this case? And it's not about the case. It's about the way it has impacted our lives. And that's not to say that a different family going through the same kind of thing, or the same thing, really, a mirror, it's not to say that that crime is any less important. I think what we have to look at is the crimes that bring us up in us, things that we need to talk about, not only as individuals, but in society. And I can't tell you, you know, for me, my favorite video on this channel is when a loved one dies. That's my favorite channel, my favorite video, because it's the most raw video. It's the most real about what it's like when you lose someone. It is, for me, the one that really was speaking to the undercurrent of pain. And if we really just step back and look at the situation, if you will, or all of the players in the Watts case, we can actually, I think a lot of people just look at the crime as a totality. And when I look at it, it's not a crime. It's people interacting in ways that created certain circumstances and caused a certain outcome. You know, and I think to say that somebody is not a causative element is kind of, I want to say, I don't know how to say it, but it's almost like negligent. You know, it's almost like if I don't say that, of course, NK was a catalyst. Do I think she was there? I don't know. I don't know. You know, in my intuition, I feel like it's really easy to blame something outside of ourselves. It's really easy to say it was her fault, when the truth is, you know, I really feel that had the circumstance, this is my intuition on this, and a lot of people ask me that, so I'll tell you, I really believe the circumstance is that if Shanann had actually left Chris with the kids and he had let her go, I feel that ultimately he would have potentially done the same thing to NK. And why do I say that? Well, he was a firecracker ready to explode. And once his fuse was lit, it was lit. And so ultimately, if he had run off with NK, if he had stayed in that house, or if he had child support or whatever he had, remember that Shanann was a healthy version in many ways of Cindy Watts. So when we look at those two people, and we look at Cindy Watts and we look at Shanann, I can honestly say that Shanann had the strength, she had the determination. And you know, many times when we see a woman with that kind of strength, we go, oh, you know, she's a ball buster, you know, but no, this is a woman who had to run the family because he was never trained. He was never taught how to be a man. You know, and I think that when we talk about, yeah, Gavin, I think he just saw a dog outside, you guys. So, you know, he has to make an appearance in every video, right? Okay, we got that down. So when we talk about the myth, and I really feel this, by the way, I think that the whole concept of toxic masculinity is, again, a way to blame men. And I really feel that it's a dialogue that leads to a dead end. And when I say dialogues that lead to a dead end, any kind of blame dialogue leads to a dead end, because at the end of the day, you're just fighting about the dead end. Think about it. You're just going, oh, it's a dead end when you have a particular person, right, who, let's take NK. It's a dead end because the police for now are certainly not, you know, indicting her. And I say for now because I don't know, but here's the thing. It's a dead end for us to keep discussing, in a sense, the discussing it at the surface level of blame. If we go deeper and look at the causative elements and say, wow, here's a woman who saw herself as second place in her life. She continually recreated second place. Think about this for a minute. How many women, me included, how many of us have taken second place in someone's life? Now, for me, it wasn't necessarily an affair, but being not the person, the focus of a particular thing. It's this cliche. Okay, years ago, an actress who shall remain nameless said to a friend of mine, she was in a TV series that had one season and it wasn't doing that well. And, she basically said to a friend of mine, we were in the same community, and she said, you know what? I slept my way right to the middle. And she made a point, which is that some people sleep their way to the top. So, and that has happened in Hollywood. I can't even tell you how many actresses that happened to. And suddenly now it's this thing of well, men are toxic because they've allowed it. Well, and I'm not blaming women, all right? What I'm saying is that we have to have the real deep conversations, which are, I feel less than. And I think part of the reason so many women hate Nicole Kessinger is because they see that less than part of themselves in her and they hate it. We can only dislike at that deep level what we don't like in ourselves. Now, do I dislike her? I'm more annoyed with her. She brings up anger in me because she brings up that part of women that I think is probably the lowest common denominator. She's definitely, for me, the lowest vibrational energy of oh, I want that, I'm just going to go for it. And it brings up for me that sickening, I'm going to do nothing to get what I get. When you look at someone who like Shanann, who worked very hard on her marriage, she worked very hard on her health. She really sacrificed for that marriage. Now, I want to tell you, if you're into hating her, I don't want to hear it. I really don't. Just because I'm gonna talk about her too. But one of the things you have to remember is that when we look at different people, it's not like one person's a saint, one person isn't. It's that some of us do things in a way that we can sleep at night peacefully. And I think when we look at the players in this, it's really easy to hate people that take shortcuts. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think in any way that Chris Watts is innocent, okay? He totally is guilty. He totally did what he did. It's a monstrous thing. And at the same time, what we hate about Chris Watts is that he did not make a choice that we would have made. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. Of course we wouldn't have made that, but you know what? I want you to go deeper than that. And I want to support you in thinking, not only did he make a choice that we wouldn't make, I mean, those of us who are following crime and who are, not criminals, is that what's so scary is that Chris Watts doesn't show a criminal part. And what we look at when we see that, and when we just go a little bit deeper with Chris Watts, we realize the other ideas, the other choices never occurred to him. He didn't have those choices. He never, really think about it. He never really would have thought of the other choices, because the other choice would be, oh, I'm going to be paying her the rest of my life. Now, here's where I feel that when we shift again, because remember, it's like a merry-go-round, right? Now we have to shift to Cindy Watts, and we have to go and to Ronnie Watts, and we look at those people and we go, wait a minute, they were definitely giving him information. They knew he had a girlfriend. They knew he had a girlfriend when he came to visit, because he told them when he was in North Carolina. Now, why is that important? Well, because now the information that the mother and father were giving him was much different than the information that would have been before. They were probably supporting him in getting out of the marriage. Now, did they say kill her? No. I really don't think that there was ever, honestly, in my heart of hearts, if anything, They gave him ideas that indicated that, because they didn't think of any other way of doing things. Because one of the things you want to look at is, if you look at the Watts family tree, there are a lot of men that committed suicide or murder. Okay. It is just riddled with it. Now, as I'm saying this to you, when we look at Ronnie Watts and we look at his wife, who he picked a woman who is an instigator of trouble. She is a problem troublemaker. She's a drama person. What is a drama person? That's someone who can't look at their own life. When people create drama in your life, it's because they have forgotten that, in a sense, they're a child of God. They're a child of spirit. They are capable, just like you or me, of making a better choice in any given moment. So when we look at the things, that the choices that were made, and I really feel I'm getting truth bumps, there is something that occurred in that trip. In that time, Chris Watts was with his parents because he did visit them. They knew he was texting a lot. They knew he was texting Nikki, and Nicole. Or I forget what he called her. I don't want to mistake it with Nicole Atkinson, so I want to say Nikki, NK. They knew about her. Now, the father did say to him, something about the paying of the money to Shanann. And I've got to tell you, any woman who has gone through a divorce with a guy, and guys can attest to this right now, what woman hasn't said, I'm going to take you to the cleaners, because the thing is that in those moments, Shanann probably wasn't looking at Chris as a danger to her, and saying, listen, I can't tell you how many times guys have joked with me, friends, and, their wives have been sitting there, and we've all been sitting around, and they've said, well, she told me the only thing I'm leaving with is my toothbrush and my pillow. And, that's the thing, is like, if I leave, I'm just going to get my toothbrush and my pillow. Well, that's kind of like a funny, but at the same time, real men know that they have a responsibility. But when we look at the relationship that Chris kept stepping back and withholding from Shanann, and more and more, she was stepping into the masculine role of taking everything on. He did not know how to step up and be a man. He knew how to do laundry. He knew how to mow the lawn. And great, those are really lovely things to do. But at the end of the day, think about this. The money he was making was not enough to support his family, much less him. And that became apparent to him when, in the conversation with Nikki, NK, she said, oh, you're in La La Land if you think $1,200 a month. He thought it was going to be like $800, $600 a month. He was not going to be able to live at any kind of lower level, especially if he had child support that he was going to be paying. So the thing is that we don't know what the courts would have done. But what we do know is this, that was planted in his brain. And here's a boy that never understood taking responsibility because he never really had to. One of the most telling pictures, in my opinion, is at the wedding when they're walking down this hallway and she's holding his hand and he's in this suit, right? He's wearing his suit and it looks like it was his big brother's suit, okay? And people have said to me, oh, well, he was overweight. And I'm like, look at the pant cuffs. Look at his cuffs. They're like bunched. They never even bothered to hem those pants. Why I'm saying this to you is that everything in Chris's life was temporary. Everything felt temporary. It felt all like a game of temporary. And his mother kept feeding into that. And even when he was in the interrogation room at the end and he said, Mom was right, or, Ronnie said, your mother was right. And they were like, she was evil or she was something. And again, I know some of you will correct me on that. My thinking behind this, and when we come full circle, is that when we go underneath it, Chris Watts, I really think he planned it, but he didn't plan it. I think that in the mind of his, oh my God, what do? He made a decision a little boy would make. I'm going to kill all the soldiers. I'm going to kill everybody. It's like having a game board. I'm going to kill everybody and then I could start over, right? And I think the prosecutor even said that, his motive was simple, he was going to start over. Well, the thing is that when someone who is simple, like Chris was, is pushed and pushed and pushed, and you want to look at the mother in this case, that mother pushed him. He realized it was like now or never. It's kind of like, have you ever had that thing of like, I dare you, I dare you? There was a case about a young woman who got pushed off a bridge by her best friend. And the woman was standing there thinking about, I think she was 17, her best friend was 17 or 18. And she's standing there thinking about jumping. And her best friend, and she's like, I'm going to go, I'm going to go. And her best friend says, yes, you are, or something. I don't remember what was said, but she pushed her. The woman falls off the bridge, the young girl, and I think she broke some ribs. It was really awful. She could have died from that. Now, when you speak to the friend who looks like an idiot for doing that, and there was a real divide of like, some people were like, oh my gosh, and the other people were like, she didn't mean it. Well, the thing is, she pushed. It's kind of like Chris did it. It's that thing of like, the girl may have been thinking about it, but there was that energy inside of him that went, I'm doing it. Now, to try and say there was like something outside it, no, it was in him. But what was in him was the fear of losing his mother. And that was so tremendous that he couldn't separate. He couldn't make that final separation. It was like the perfect storm. If you look at the triangle there between NK, Shanann, and his mom, NK, I'm going to say it, was cray-cray. She's off the freaking rails. And the reason I say that again is because this is a woman who thought she could just apply natural pressure of like, well, if you love me, you'll leave your wife and I'm just going to have to, and look at my booty and look at who I am. And she was like, just, girl, what are you thinking? And the reason so many of us are angry at her is like, are you like crazy? And that's why I've said in my other videos, oh, that was dangerously naive. Well, that's a mature way of putting it, right? The guttural way, the internal way is, oh my God, you bitch, like, oh my gosh, And then when we look at Shanann, her relationship was slipping away. She didn't know what to do. And even though everything in her knew he was cheating, she's pregnant. She doesn't know what to do. Then we look over at Chris and he's got this pressure of his mother. Now, here's the thing. Why is Cindy such a character? It's because we know she was feeding his mind with things that were not healthy. And we've all done this. I want you to think to your own life. How many of you have had a best friend? Maybe you know this person, I don't know, personally. How many of you know someone who has a best friend who really was negative about the best friend's boyfriend and just kept dissing the guy and dissing the guy and dissing the guy to the point where the best friend gets cut off? Or the boyfriend, eventually they break up and the best friend was right and the friend comes back, right? That's what this feels like. And so when we look at someone like Cindy Watts, we're looking at someone who's interfering in a relationship she has no business interfering with, and we've all interfered where we have no business. So what these people are doing is they're bringing out the worst of us. We're bringing, and even with Shanann, if we looked at just her behavior, there are some of us are going to go, oh my gosh, that's so desperate. And we don't want to appear desperate, right? The worst thing any guy can call a girl in that sense is needy. Oh, she was being needy. Well, guess what? No, she wasn't. She was a woman attempting to have a conversation with her husband, who she thought was her husband and in a relationship with her, but he was checked out. He had already reverted back to a teenager. And there was no way that Shanann was going to know this. And so what it starts looking at is desperation. And you know what? It isn't desperation. What it really was is a woman trying to relate to her husband. And when we look at that, we can go, oh my gosh. And where the upset comes for all of us underneath it is, how do we know who we're relating to? See, a lot of people say they can't rest with it because they don't understand it. Well, now this is the understanding. I'm giving you what's underneath it, right? For what energetically can trigger any of us in any given moment. So we've all had situations, I know I have, where I've said to a person, a friend, hey, what's going on? I just had this happen with a friend of mine. She has helped me with something for a long time. And she was supposed to do something, a particular action, and it had a deadline. And I was like, did you do it? And I didn't hear from her. So it was like, it got to a point where I was like going, look, girl, just tell me yes or no. And she messaged me back and said, this is the last time. And it's like, okay, fine, but did you do it? Because here's the thing, it's totally fine to say, you know what? And this is what an adult would do. An adult would say, listen, I'm overwhelmed right now, and I get that you're trying to get something from me. I'm in a blur, and I need a few days to really sort this out. The issue is that he was not, she was not dealing, Shanann was not dealing with an adult. And in this case, I wasn't dealing with someone who really was able to kind of come through and say, hey, you got me in my busiest time. I can't talk to you right now, and I've taken care of it, but I don't want to do it anymore. Great, that's fine. And for me, I don't want to lose the friendship. And yet at the same time, I feel like, well, I need to be relating to people that respond. This goes back to, if this person is not responding the way they need to respond, running into the burning building may not be the safest thing. And so this is a good indicator for all of us. If you're feeling this feeling, really talking it out with friends and saying, and Shanann even said, I don't feel safe around him. This is where, and then I look at Nicole Atkinson and I see her saying, you've got to live a good life. And I see her crying, and I get that. But I also see that guilt of, why didn't I see that? I do see that. And, I can feel her pain. I can feel her. And you know why she didn't know? Because we haven't been trained in this. We haven't been. And yet this is what, for me, this is what my channel is about looking deeper than just that and having the real conversations. And so now let's shift that merry-go-round for the final time and look at the Rusheks. The way a normal man would behave, someone who is healthy would respond to his daughter or daughter-in-law being murdered. Look at Frank Rushek. Look no further. Look at him. This is a man who breaks down. He loved his grandchildren. He loved his daughter. That is a normal, by the way, very normal response. And yet society goes, oh, he's crying. It's like, yeah, he's crying. It's like when you have nowhere to take feelings, for a man, he either has to go to the gym and punch something, or he's going to behave like Chris and murder someone, or he's going to cry. He does not have a legitimate way to express feelings. We don't let men. We call them toxic. Because we haven't given them opportunity to really share their feelings. And that's why I get mad about this toxic stuff, because it's like, toxic is murder. Healthy is, I don't know how to deal with these feelings. Okay, here are some ways to deal with it. Talk to a therapist, go seek help, go to the gym and punch a punching bag, go for a run, get a chance to think, keep going back into the NK stuff is not going to do it. And Chris alluded to that. So when we look at the Frank Rusheks and his son, Frankie, Frankie is younger. And so you saw the first thing of like, I want to kill him, put me in a room with him, which is normal. I mean, most people have those thoughts. Like, you want to just kill the SOB, right? Those are normal thoughts. Normal. And yet we think we shouldn't have them, or we got to get through them. You get through them at your own way and pace. And I'm going to tell you, I just can't stand when people go, oh, get over it. Because it's like, okay, it's fine if you've gotten over it. But you know what? That means when you're saying that to somebody, it may be that you're squelching it in yourself. So a lot of times when I see that, I go, oh, this person can't handle their feelings. And you know what? I get it. We all have been through that. I know for me, there are times I can't handle my feelings. And you know what I do? I'll call a friend and I'll go, you know what? I'm really having trouble process these feelings. I don't know what to do about them. Can I just talk to you for a bit about what they are? And I don't want to be fixed. I don't want you to shame me. I don't want any like feedback. I just want to talk. And I've trained my friends so well, the 3 I have left, the friends I do have, to be able to say, sure. And they do the same with me. So now let's step over to Sandy. And I did a whole video on her and why we honor her. And I think the thing is that, you know, that feeling of wanting to quit and wanting to give up and feeling destroyed, we all feel it. And I think that what Sandy brings to us, Sandy Rushek, is she brings the thinking of, I can go on. I can go on. And yet, you know, there are times when you have to look at things and go, should I go on with this? Like, and that's why I'm on this talk today, is that obviously when I was talking about Chris Watts, you know, my views went up. But at a certain point, I have to be authentic and say, you know, unless there's more to discuss, like today, discussing the feeling of wanting to give up and discussing the underlying feelings as I get more space from this crime. This is a good check-in for me around the Chris Watts case. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to make it something where I just suck in people to listen to me talk about it over and over and over again, unless I have something that I feel is a different perspective or something that's slightly new. Pulling apart the nuances of whether or not NK was in the room is not as vital to me. Now, that doesn't mean that other people's channels shouldn't do it or don't do it, or, you know, it's more like I want to find out what we've learned, who we are because of it, and how we relate to that issue, and healing the issues that have come up for me around it. And one of the big issues that I'm sharing my truth with all of you today about is I really kind of went, why am I even doing this YouTube thing? Like, you know, you get meanies on there and I have to go through and just get rid of them, or I, you know, just say to my assistant, can you please just go in and, you know, just hide the people. I don't want to hear from them anymore. Like, I don't, meaning if they're just like criticizing or, and you know what? I get that some people just need to learn how to behave, but I would rather have someone say, I don't know how to behave and I don't know how to say this, and this is what's coming up for me. But when you attack someone else, or you say, well, I don't know how you could feel that way. Well, you don't know. You know, you have no idea of knowing. You have no way of knowing unless you really listen to them. You know, it's kind of like having an opposing viewpoint in anything. You know, we've come to this place where we can't understand another viewpoint because we're so locked on our own, because there's something in us that's going to be destroyed if we let something else happen. Well, you know, I can't tell you how many people, you know, try to say things where it's like, you know, disparaging about another person. And it's like, why are you wasting your time with it? You know, when I look at someone like Sandy Rushek, she was really honest. You know, she really looked at, you know, the thing of like, this was her son-in-law. She loved Chris, you know, and I think that when we look at it that way, to be able to say that love for that person doesn't die. The pain and anguish over what they did and the hate that comes up and the anger, that's all normal part of the process. You know, I think that we have to remember that, you know, when people just come and poop on my feed, I have no interest in them. I don't really have any interest in someone who just wants to criticize something or criticize me and move on, because you know what that tells me? They have no tools for living. And guess what? While I feel that in the work I do and in my classes, and what I feel is my most important class is life purpose divination, when I share what I know with somebody and their life changes, those are the people I want to speak to. I don't want to speak to the people that never want to hear what I have to say, because that's just, it's kind of like the definition of insanity, trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting something different to happen, right? That is a cliche. However, when you look at it with people like who are commenting on YouTube but have no interest in a dialogue, have no interest in any kind of depth of conversation. And yes, you know, I'm not going to be like saying to you, oh, well, I don't like feel that way about, you know, monetizing my channel. Well, yeah, I do feel that way about monetizing my channel. I do want to see it monetized because I love it. I love sharing with all of you and those who care to listen. I love sharing what I see and love hearing your insights and your ahas and your breakthroughs from it, because I feel that's the only way for us to shift. And the reality is that I need to make a living. So when I'm taking time away from my living, I do need to do something with this channel. And so, no, I don't want to be the person who's just making a buck off a tragedy. I want to be enlightening myself and others through these tragedies so that we can have compassion for the journey of ourselves and others. And we can really look at crimes that happen and the different players involved in it. And that's why I'm picking the crimes I'm picking and why I'm picking certain things. So you'll see that coming from me. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful to you. I know that today I just felt like, ugh, I want to just quit, you know? And I think it just comes down to, it becomes exhausting when you're feeling like you're traveling upstream. So I would encourage you, please like this video. It does help a lot. And if you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. But please share it with other people. Please like and subscribe. And the reason subscribing is so important is because it does help with, you know, as you get more subscribers, it puts you into new levels and possibilities with YouTube. And I want to be in that place so I can do this more. So I really want to be of service to you. And yet at the same time, you know, it's kind of like I need to do it if I'm gonna make a living at it. So that said, please remember, say what you mean what you say. Don't say it mean. Be kind to each other. And if you see, the glasses were off the whole time. So the glasses were off. Please know that I do have some merch. I do have some mugs, a couple mugs that we've made up so far. I'll probably do more. But I'm kind of starting with all that, and it is a slow build. It is slow to build a channel. So I've really enjoyed so far being with all of you. And like I said, this has been a little bit of a difficult time, and I really invite you to have an open mind to what other people are saying and really start with trying to understand what they're sharing before you just blast them, because there's no point in blasting someone because they can't hear it. People really only hear kindness. So remember, be kind to others because you could make the difference in their life today. Just remember that. Say something nice and just say it to someone who maybe doesn't expect it. Much love, everyone, and I will see you in the next video.